In this Demon's Souls Remake build guide, I'm going to be covering my Cursed Dragon build, which is a strength build that focuses on killing most enemies in one hit. It's great for new players or veterans because it can be put together very quickly and makes more challenging enemies a bit easier. This is a beginner strength build and is not optimized for NG+ and beyond. The Cursed Dragon build uses a combination of high strength and mobility to hit and run mobs of enemies or outright kill them in one swing. The Dragon Bone Smasher is the weapon I have chosen for this build because it can be obtained rather early on in the game and doesn't need any upgrades to make it powerful. You can, however, upgrade it to +5 using Colorless Demon's Souls, making it hit even harder. Additionally, you can equip and use the Talisman of Beasts once you get it to cast Cursed Weapon for a 50% boost to damage in exchange for 1 HP loss per second, which is not much. This makes your damage per swing extremely high, which is fantastic. The starting class I chose for this build is Barbarian because it starts with high strength and decent endurance and vitality. It has light armor as well, allowing you to use the Dragon Bone Smasher and a shield without fat rolling rather easily. Knight is also a solid choice for this build as it has higher intelligence and is lower soul level, giving you more points to spend early on. It also begins with the Kite Shield, which is much better than the Wooden Shield. The first thing you should realize is that how you are set up at the beginning of the game is not how this build will play out after you gain the Dragon Bone Smasher. It's not a bad idea to play around with the Bastard Sword once you get it or farm some souls and purchase the Claymore. They swing a bit faster than the Dragon Bone Smasher, but it'll give you a better idea of the playstyle. No matter which large weapon you're using, it's always a good idea to learn the moveset of the weapon. This is particularly important for this build because finding the right attack for each enemy can be the difference between success and death. A couple of attacks that work really well for this build are first, the default R1 attack while one-handing the weapon. This attack is a straight vertical swing that is excellent for tight spaces where you might bounce off a wall if you attack horizontally. Second, the running one-hand attack is another vertical strike that attacks more quickly than a normal swing and can be useful against enemies with fast attacking weapons. It allows you to hit them before they can get you, and what's really nice is that the Dragon Bone Smasher has some splash damage so you don't always have to hit them directly to kill them. And last, the rolling R1 attack while one-handing sweeps the Smasher on a large AoE that can be devastating to groups of enemies. It basically can't be interrupted once its animation begins, which means you should kill everything near the end of your roll, even if you take damage. This attack is probably one of the best the Dragon Bone Smasher has, so use it liberally. The stats needed for the Cursed Dragon build are Strength, Endurance, Vitality, and some Intelligence. Strength is needed to wield the Dragon Bone Smasher effectively as well as increase its damage. It also allows you to use better shields if you wish, and these usually have higher strength requirements. Endurance is needed not so much because each swing with the Smasher costs so much stamina, but rather to increase your equip load. The Barbarian armor is extremely ineffective at protecting you from damage, so you want to wear something with more protection and still be able to roll normally. You'll want a bunch of Vitality because you'll often trade damage with this weapon because you come out ahead way more often than not. Having a decent amount of Vitality will give you a cushion so that you cannot be killed when this happens, and just helps keep you alive in general. And lastly, you'll need 18 Intelligence in order to even use Cursed Weapons, so you'll aim for that probably before you get 30 Vitality. Your stat spread should look something like this. 30 Strength is the minimum requirement needed to wield the Dragon Bone Smasher one-handed, which is what you want to do sometimes. You'll likely get this to 15 NG+ for increased damage, but the best bang for your buck is easily 30 points. 20 Endurance should let you use the Saint's armor set and a shield and still roll normally. 30 Vitality is the breakpoint before you start seeing diminishing returns, but like Strength, you'll continue to increase it into NG+. In this section, we'll take a look at what equipment you need in order to play the Cursed Dragon build effectively. Keep in mind that you'll likely change this up some depending on what section of the game you're on, but this should serve to give you some idea of what setups you're looking for. First, let's take a look at the early game. At the beginning of the game, you'll want to pick up and equip the Cling Ring as soon as you can to further increase your health in soul form. You'll likely be in soul form a good amount of the time, so this can really help keep you alive. Be sure to pick up the Ring of Giant Strength beneath the Blue Dragon in the Boltarian Palace so that you can use heavier armor more easily. You probably won't need this early on, but you'll likely want to use this in heavier armors during boss fights instead of the Regenerator's Ring. It's a good idea to swap out your wooden shield if you took the Barbarian class for a heater shield once you've defeated the Phalanx, or before even if you can spare the souls. This way you'll have a 100% physical protection shield and you'll stop taking chip damage when you block normal attacks. It can be purchased from Blacksmith Baldwin in the Nexus for 2,000 souls. Another really good pickup early on is the Crescent Falchion and the Shrine of Storms. It takes almost no time to acquire and gives you a strong melee attack that deals magic damage. You should look to get this as soon as you can as it can really help out with Stonefang Tunnel and beyond since most enemies there are weak to magic damage. Just note that you'll need to place 1 point into Dexterity in order to use it effectively if you took the Barbarian starting class. Next, you want to pick up the Regenerator's Ring, which can be found near the boss in the same area along a cliff past the Crystal Lizard. This is a great ring for regenerating your health, and you'll likely swap this and the Ring of Giant Strength as needed, and it can help offset some of the health lost from Cursed Weapon. The Saint's armor set is what I like to use with this build because it's light enough to use the Dragon Bone Smasher and a shield and still roll normally with a little investment into endurance. As you level up more and more and eventually increase your endurance to 40, you can use heavier armor as long as you stay at or below 50% equip load. You can find this armor in the Valley of Defilement about halfway through this area. Once you've gotten the things I just mentioned, head to Stonefang Tunnel, and the first thing you should do while there is unlock the lift to Blacksmith Ed so that you can upgrade your Dragonbone Smasher once you get it with Colorless Demon Souls. Next, you'll defeat both Armor Spider and Flame Lurker in order to get to the Dragonbone Smasher. It's important to note that you need pure White World tendency to get this weapon, so you should consider summoning other players for these boss fights, as it helps with this. This is especially true if you've already died once or twice in body form in this area, as you'll need all the extra bit you can get here. The Dragonbone Smasher is located just inside the Dragon God boss fight, and you don't even need to defeat him in order to grab it. Simply run in and forward and then left immediately at the end of the first corridor past the Crystal Lizard. If you have pure White World tendency, the rubble will be gone and you can grab the sword. You can then either just die or finish the fight if you wish, but you'll have the weapon either way. The Silver Cornet is not a bad helm to fill out your armor in order to gain 20% extra MP. It's not going to be enough to get 2 casts of Cursed Weapon at 18 intelligence, but if you take the build over to NG+, or spend some time farming some souls to boost intelligence, you can get it there. Once you've defeated the Penetrator boss, then you need to free Uria and acquire the Cursed Weapon spell. This will allow you to buff your weapon with 50% increased damage in exchange for some health. You want to cast this with Talisman of Beasts. Talisman of Beasts can be acquired in 2 ways, but the quickest way is by turning your world tendency in Stonefang Tunnel to black. This will cause Black Phantom Scurver the Wanderer to appear after the Armored Spider Archstone, and if you defeat him, he will obtain this item. Make sure that you do not meet the requirements of it in order to only lose 1 HP per second instead of 1% HP per second when casting Cursed Weapon. Final tips. There are a limited number of Colorless Demon Souls you can obtain per playthrough, so learn how to get these by using the wiki because they aren't super straightforward. For example, you can gain 1 by dropping a Talisman of God for Sparkly and reloading the game. Remember that the Dragonbone Smasher can be buffed with Pine Resin, Black Pine Resin, and Sticky White Slime to further boost your damage per swing before you obtain Cursed Weapon. Use these items during boss fights or on tough enemies to dispatch them even more quickly. The Dark Silver Shield makes a good candidate for this build once you have it later in the game, as it has about the same guard break as the Heater Shield, but much better magic and fire resistance. It weighs a bit more, but it's definitely worth it if you can still roll normally with it equipped. Bring Spice with you when out in an Archstone so that you can replenish your mana when using Cursed Weapon. You won't need to do this until you've acquired it, of course, but this will allow you to use it much more often and not only in boss fights. You can buy spices from Patches in the Nexus if you do his questline. Lastly, remember that the Dragonbone Smasher has a bit of an AoE at the point of impact if it hits the ground squarely. Learn to anticipate this over time and use it to your advantage. Sometimes you don't need to hit an enemy directly with the blade to kill it, giving the weapon a bit further reach in some cases than you might realize. Stay tuned for more Demon Souls build guides as we explore just what kinds of builds you can make, and be sure to check out the Demon Souls wiki if you have specific questions about the game. As always, you can watch our Demon Souls review and Getting Started guide to get going with the game.